Okay, so we are back with our 2 days of live coverage at the American Colleges Horizons Conference in sunny Orlando. And up next, we have Lindsey Lewis, who is the Managing Director of the Women's Center at the college. Lindsey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. I've been a fan of yours online for some time now, so it's a real treat for me to interview you in person.
I love it.
And there's a lot we could talk about. But off camera, we kind of narrowed it down to emerging talent and how that ties into the whole idea of goRIA. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we recently did a research study around what Gen Z is looking for in financial services. And we find that folks are looking for a place where they have unlimited income capacity and unlimited income opportunities. And you can see that in different organizational structures, right? But you see a lot of folks moving from insurance-backed broker-dealers, independent broker-dealers to RIAs. And when we look at the talent gap that's going to happen, we have over 100,000 financial advisors retiring in the next 10 years. At current attrition rates, that would be hiring over 500,000 people in order to meet current demand, not even increasing demand. So you have this rising generation that's really interested in financial services, really interested in different models, but are advisors there, and are they going to be able to capture that talent that is interested in financial services?
Okay, so the advisory firm's capturing that talent.
Correct.
Okay. So as you probably know, and the audience does, this is sort of my side gig. I happen to have a firm.
Yes.
And talent acquisition is always an important thing. So what can I do as the owner of a firm, or folks in the audience listening, to make that firm more attractive for this next-gen advisor?
Yeah, what we're seeing is that the Gen Z respondents, so we interviewed half of them that are already working within financial services. So they have fewer than 3 years of experience.
Okay.
And a fourth of them said that their training is ineffective. They said their onboarding was ineffective, and that they said they didn't have clear communication or career paths.
Yes.
So what happens in the RIA space is that maybe you don't have as much home office support, right? You're doing it your own way, and that you don't have formal training and onboarding. And especially these smaller firms, smaller necessarily in people power, maybe not in size,
right,
don't have formal training and process. So these folks are coming in. And the challenging thing is if they have a bad experience, they have ineffective onboarding and training, they want to spend less than 5 to 7 years within the profession. So having effective onboarding and training and clear communication and paths to partnership are so important. So the recommendation I would have to you is to make sure that you have an effective training onboarding process and that you have a clear path to partnership for these younger folks that are coming into the profession.
So I want to focus on the latter for just a moment, because we've recently just done this. And I've been very vocal about the fact that, I am, my runway is getting a little shorter. Shorter than it was 30 years ago than when I started.
Correct.
Right? So it is what it is. But I am absolutely, positively committed to not selling to private equity. Right? So what I want to do, I'm still using the royal we, which I started 30 years ago when it was just me. Now we actually have a shop. Was creating a pathway. And we created what we call an accountability chart, organizational chart. And now when we're talking to people, not just advisors, right? For us, because we're really a platform for other advisors looking to go independent. So our key people are really the operations, the traders.
Yes.
And when I show them that org chart, they're like, you're here, but here's your path to being here. Boy, do they love that. Is that something you're seeing more of?
Yes, we see that this rising generation is very ambitious. So about a third of them want to be in C-suite positions within 10 years, which is very ambitious, especially when you have like TikTokers or influencers or whatnot. So I do think it's calibrating that. What I also find with some firms is that the runway might still be very long, right? So it's like you can be an intern and then you have to be an associate advisor for 3 to 5 years, and then you can move into an advisor capacity. And some folks want to move faster. And especially if they have the skill set and the aptitude to do that, being a place where people can make those advances. Also providing opportunity for ownership for people who are not client facing, right? A lot of firms, they want to keep the ownership to themselves. Kudos to you for not wanting to sell to private equity, because a lot of folks like big checks and they are welcome to, make those adjustments. So it really is about how do you create these clear paths, and if there's ways to like put the gas on or expedite it, and articulating that effectively. What we found is that people felt like they had very ineffective communications with leaders. And so having that ability to formalize, document it, and be effective in that communication.
Okay. And so I love big checks, actually.
Yes.
But here's the thing, and I don't want to pivot around too much, but you're bringing up some really good points. For me, private equity was a cultural thing, and I'll be very honest with you, I've been doing this for 30 years, built it from scratch, bootstrapped it myself.
Yes.
And after 30 years, this is not the time I now want a boss. And let me tell you something. A private equity firm writes you a 10-figure check, an 8-figure check.
Yes.
You now have a boss.
Correct.
Make no mistake about it, right? They're not going to just write that check and be like, all right, let us know how things go. You now have a boss. And I actually feel that, I do have some runway left to do big picture stuff. I have no more interest in why is this API not working, or what do we need to do about our HR policy. Zero interest in that. But I still love doing this, being the face of Sovereign, and I want to build with the next gen operators. And for me, the only way someone's going to love Sovereign as much as I love it is with equity.
Yes.
And that's why I feel it's not even altruism, it's really for my best interest to put equity in the hands of that next generation to build all together. And I'd rather have 50% of something 5 times the size than 100% of something a fifth the size. Am I crazy? Joe Duran says I'm crazy.
You might be a little bit crazy, but I think it just depends on values. It's same with clients, right? Sometimes what they want to do in their financial plan is not calibrated with exact, financial planning.
Yeah.
So the one thing I will say about private equity is that there are a couple of institutions that will do minority non-control to help free up some space within your firm.
Yeah.
And what that allows you to do is perhaps onboard the G2 or G3 person, pay them, levy up some of the equity, just like a private equity firm wants to do. They want to be paid in equity, right?
Yes.
Same for your next generation, but it is also framing how that compensation looks, or coming up with models that allow them to get some equity ownership, whether it is, through a buy-sell agreement or something else, right? You have to figure out what's going to work for that individual, but sometimes they don't have the capital, right? So are there earn-out options that can get you to an equity component versus
for us,
cash
we're just doing a seller's note.
Correct.
Right? Which is, again, crazy, but I really believe in what we're doing, and I really want these people to run it. So that was important for me. Are you seeing much of that?
Well, I think it just depends on the advisor. Yeah. So you have 100,000 folks planning to retire in the next decade. So your opinion, Chuck, is totally different than someone else's, right? So
only $99,999.
Some people, right? When I recently saw a private equity deal for a 12x on an advisor's book of business. So just someone to write me, I'm a $1 million producer, that's a $12 million check. Sometimes that's a little bit challenging to say no, thank you. So it really does depend on the philosophy. I think the other thing that will be interesting is with the infusement of this private equity space, is just how it shapes financial planning at large, right? Because if you get more conglomerators and then you have some more of these smaller shops, does it create a larger divide between the products or offerings or how equity structure looks like? But lots of folks want to be paid in equity, and seller financing is an option. Yeah. I think I've seen some folks who are next-gen advisors who go to buy a firm, and then eventually they might have put some money in, and then their owner sells to private equity, and then they don't get the book of business because someone else is the boss. Yep. And that is a challenge and a risk that they're taking. So especially on those folks, it's making sure that you have that within the agreement of what it would look like for them if there was some sort of exit event that was not selling to them as the individual.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of that now.
Yes.
I'm calling that the breakaways.
The breakaways.
Seriously, so because we had an advisor join us that was in that exact situation. I won't use names of firms, but it's one of the big aggregators.
Yes.
And she was sort of the junior advisor. And what a lot of us senior advisors do, they have the whole carrot out there, someday all this will be yours.
All the light touches is your kingdom.
Yes. Exactly. Right. And then what happened was, XYZ big aggregator wrote a big check, which was great for the founder, not so great for her.
Yes.
So she found herself now from a boutique, which was her vibe, in this big aggregator, which was not her vibe, being told how to run her book of business, and then she left. And I think we're going to see a lot of that.
I do believe you're going to see a lot of that, especially if you still see the infusement of private equity. Obviously, they want to make their money back, so they're looking at 5 to 12 year hold periods, maybe even shorter. And then you see firms going back and getting more private equity and more private equity. So could definitely happen, and lots of firms can sell. What I would say for the aspiring professional or the emerging professional is to get everything in writing and to have those conversations in advance.
Absolutely.
And to have those challenging conversations. Okay, if we have this agreement and then you decide to sell in 5 years, what does that look like for me? And then paint them the picture, because for them, they might be riding off into the sunset and excited for retirement and have a new car in the driveway. But for the other person, that if their longevity and their runway for being in the business is a couple of decades, and that totally derails them. So having those challenging conversations up front. So just like you would advise a client that maybe a prenup is the right choice for them, same type of conversations that you want to have with the firms.
Okay, I think we're going to put a pin right there. So make sure you know what's happening and get it in writing. Lindsey, thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so that's it. We're going to have our conference wrap up in just another 35 minutes. I'll be back for that. I will see you then. Okay, that was great.